The atom looked around and wondered, "What's all this about?" "It's easy," said the other atom. "We live our lives in accordance with the deterministic laws of the universe. We lose an electron here, a neutron there, but other than that, our lives are stable and fixed." The human looked around and wondered, "What's all this about?" "It's easy," said the other human. "We have around 80 years to live, and most of that time is predictable. The same commute to work, the same meals at the same meal times, the same leisure activities. We make some friends and perhaps a romantic connection or two, and we lose some as well. There are some surprises, but those are few and far between. And before we know it, our lives come to an end and we die. Life is short, but at the end of the day, we can be sure that the sun will rise again tomorrow." The star looked around and wondered, "What's all this about?" "It's easy," said the other star. "We have about 10 billion years to live, and there's little in our lifetimes that we can predict. There are a few planets in orbit around me, and each of them is changing. Some of them have life, others don't. Some of them contained life at one point, but in the blink of a stellar eye, that life was eradicated by some natural disaster or a cause of their own. Such things never last. Planets thrive, and then planets die. The same thing will happen with us as well. Either it's a supernova, or we burn out and turn into a shell of our former selves. That's the way of the universe." The universe looked around and wondered, "What's all this about?" It waited for a response, but there was none. It searched for something that was stable and fixed, but there was nothing. Even in a single cosmic moment, there were such an infinity of events that it was impossible to track even one of them before it evolved into the next one. Atoms came into existence from the void and then annihilated one another. Life arose from the mud, flourished into civilizations, and then became extinct. Planets solidified from the accretion disks of dust around their stars, settled into orbits, and then were obliterated in some cosmic catastrophe. Stars were created in the wombs of the universe, blinked on for a moment, and then were extinguished. Black holes formed at the collapse of their stars and then evaporated into radiation. All these events happened in the time it took for the universe to have but a single thought. Continual flux from the moment of its birth until the moment of its death. And this would repeat through the infinite births and deaths in infinite cycles that stretched on and on forever. The universe wished that it could become one of those life forms that existed for even the most instantaneous of moments. To exist and experience within time rather than outside it. How wonderful it must feel to hold a loved one in their arms, even with the knowledge that both of them would cease to exist in a cosmic moment. How brilliant it must feel to watch the sunrise, even with the knowledge that there were a finite number of sunrises that each of them would ever see. How marvelous it must feel to tend a garden whose flowers and trees would sustain and shelter countless numbers of their descendants, even after their own demise. Time was perhaps the most valuable substance in existence, and the fact that it was scarce and fleeting for all the life forms in the universe made it that much more valuable. Who could waste their time with arguments, or succumb to hatred, or break off relationships when time was as scarce a resource as it was? Who could waste their wealth and insult the universe in not making the most of the time that conspired to make their existence possible? The universe dizzied with all of the events happening inside it, and wondered, who could be more depressed than the one who has all of time? The quantum particle looked around and said, "Well, bollocks to all that, I'm going to be in 2 places at once. Way!"